CWPA Remote Professional Edition, where we take a look at water polo players and where they are today.
This man was a member of the University of Arizona men's water polo club team. In 2011, he graduated with degrees in marketing and accounting. He then started working in baseball, first with the Atlanta Braves AAA affiliate, and then with the San Diego Padres. And now he is the head coach of the Siena College Saints women's varsity water polo program. I'm very pleased to be joined today by Alex Williams. Alex, thanks so much for agreeing to appear today on CWPA Remote.
Thanks for having me. I'm really appreciative of the opportunity to get on CWPA's content stream, and it'll be a lot of fun to share some of what we're doing at Siena.
Well, I'm sure our viewers are going to be interested by a lot of what you have to offer. So let's begin at Arizona. How and why did you end up choosing the University of Arizona?
For me back then, I would say I had a lot less clarity on what who I was or who I wanted to be. And, really for me, I wasn't a high school student who was recruited by anyone, nor was I part of a club program or culture that was really trying to push me to get involved with the college water polo. So I really went to the University of Arizona because I loved the campus on my visit there. I did as a high school senior. It wasn't too far from my home in San Diego, so 6-hour drive, not too bad to get back on holidays, things like that. But it was far enough away. I felt like I was going to have a great college experience, and I loved it. And it wasn't until about a month before I started, during the middle of summer, that the club president at the time, Alex Kane, reached out to me on Facebook and said, "Hey, we have a great club team. We're nationally ranked in CWPA club. I saw that you've played. Would you like to come out and play with the team?" So I said, "That sounds really fun. I would love to keep playing water polo." So I went out to campus a little early, stayed at the water polo house before I moved into the dorms, and just started really getting immersed into the college club scene from pretty much day one when I got to the U of A.
So what was your very first practice like?
It was both overwhelming and a blast at the same time. U of A has a really big, club program. I think at the time we were, recruiting 2 squads. Like, we had the A team and a B team. So most of the freshmen and sophomores were on the B team, and our A team had, some really amazing players. And I think at the time were on a streak of, 5 or 6 straight Southwest, conference championships. So there were a lot of really good players. There's several, players who had played at, Division I NCAA and had transferred over. There were some players who clearly had the talent, but for one reason or another decided to go into U of A and playing club was a better fit for them. But I was just so happy to be, continuing to play a sport that I loved. And then the environment was so inclusive and, really just gave me such a solid social and foundation at the school, and really helped me, create some very, close friendships that, are going to last a lifetime for me.
And how about your first game?
I don't even know if I remember what my first club game was. I've always just treated every game I've ever played in my life as just pure joy. There was nothing better than going to go play water polo, whether that was practice or a game. So there's only a handful of games I specifically, remember, can pick out of the hundreds I've been a part of. But I just remember every game and every season with that club team just being, just so much fun, and just being able to be so hands-on with it. That's what really made it just, such a joyful experience.
Do you have a single best memory?
Oh, by far the best game or best memory ever in as a player was during my senior year at the Southwest championship game. It was hosted by Arizona State, who was at that time a very up-and-coming program, very young club program. I think their first season was maybe my sophomore year, but they quickly turned into a force to be reckoned with. They had dethroned us from the championship during my junior year. And we had lost to them 5 straight games, but as you know, the CWPA format is winner take all at that conference tournament.
Mm-hmm.
So we lost 5 straight going to the previous season, got to that championship game at their pool. We're down quickly. I think we went into the fourth quarter down by 3. We ended up rattling 6 straight goals by 6 different players in the closing minutes, and 110-9, and just celebration and chaos ensued shortly after. And I think that's maybe the happiest I've ever been in a particular moment. Just kind of a very blurry out of body experience. I would give just about anything if someone could produce some film of that game so I could go back and watch it.
Well, I won't ask you what happened that night in your celebrations. Have you had any disappointing events, instances occur while you were playing water polo at Arizona?
I wouldn't say disappointing. I would just say, as any player has experienced, you get knocked down, there's setbacks. Like I said, we had lost 5 straight games against Arizona State before, reclaiming our spot on top of the conference. So you could say for about a year and a half going up to that, we had some adversity we wanted to, get over. We had obviously felt like, maybe we had let past, great teams down who, they never lost a conference championship game, ever in their career. And we were the first one to do it in a while. But that wasn't the reason I loved my experience, playing water polo and in college. I always just had a great time because of the process and because of, my love for the game. And I think when you pour your everything into the game, it'll give it back to you, and it did for us that senior year. So I wouldn't say I've ever been disappointed. I've experienced the ebb and flow of competitive sport.
Mm-hmm. So along that line, I'm sure our viewers would be interested in having you provide some reflections about your water polo career at Arizona.
I mean, looking back, it was probably looks like a path I fell into. I was just going there to be a student at U of A, and the club president had reached out to me to play and kind of rekindled my interest in, continuing to play water polo. But really looking back, it was the best thing that could have happened, just being in that environment. When you're part of a club program, everything you guys do is of your own creation. There is no athletic director that's super invested what you're doing. You're really accountable to yourself. And, we hired our coaches. We did our own fundraising. We scheduled our pool time. We called the travel agencies. We booked the trips. Like, we did everything. We resolved the conflicts on our team. We recruited. Like, we did everything you had to do top to bottom to run a program. And that experience has been arguably as beneficial as, the classroom textbook, experience in terms of learning to be a functioning adult, and more importantly, how to be a leader in your adult life. So that's what I look back on it as just being, the best blessing that's ever happened was, being part of that, and eventually becoming the club president and learning how to run things and learning how to do things, learning from doing things wrong and falling down sometimes, and then, just trying to be a little bit better the next time around.
Well, very important to your current situation, you actually started coaching while you were at Arizona. Can you tell us about that? How did it come about, and what was the experience like?
I think I always knew from a young age, I loved baseball growing up. I couldn't get enough baseball, but I didn't have any kind of disillusionment or fantasy ever of being a Major League Baseball player. But one thing a couple things I always thought was there's other ways to be a part of a game. And I was fascinated with broadcasters, like play-by-play. I grew up listening to Hall of Famer Jerry Coleman on Padres radio broadcasts as a kid. But I was also fascinated with the front office side of things and what GMs did to run successful organizations. So I always kind of had this like interest on the administrative side, the operation side of how you run a successful program or organization, not just, be a good player. And so, when there was an opportunity to get involved with the women's club program at U of A, I mean, that was just something that sounded just like so much fun to me to try out that side and manage people and manage personalities. And looking back on it, I don't know if I had any idea what I was actually doing, but I learned a lot from that. I learned a lot about the differences between being a player and being a coach, and I definitely gained a new appreciation for what coaches have to do to keep a lot of people engaged and help them on the path to success. But that was just like such a fun hands-on project for me to be a part of, and probably first gave me the inspiration to pursue that later on.
Right. Well, before we get into your current situation, tell us a bit about your time with the Padres.
I mean, that was at the time, that was like a dream come true. I as a kid, I grew up like dreaming about like one day working for the Padres. And when I first graduated college, the idea of doing sport for a career, it seemed like a really, not a reality at the time. The first job I did out of college was I did technical recruiting. I recruited, engineers to fill, open positions for our clients. And I quickly understood that that was not what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. And I think it was almost like an overnight thing. At that point, I said, you know what? I always said I was going to do this, or I wanted to do this as a kid, so I'm going to go try to do this. But like water polo, I wasn't just some amazing athlete or had some amazing connections to really do that. I had to build that foundation from scratch. But one thing I've always been good about is, okay, putting together a plan, figuring out the path, for where I want to be. And that's where, packing everything up and moving to suburban Georgia at Gwinnett County, just outside of Atlanta, and working minimum wage in minor league baseball and selling and slinging tickets, and, doing when you work in minor league baseball, you got to wear a lot of hats. And I learned how to have the humility to do hard work and not care too much about what people think or their judgment about what you're doing. And I just kind of tried to do my best to stay true to that path as possible. I didn't know when or if ever I was going to, work for a major league team. But I just kept honoring that process and reaching out to people and trying to build a network and make connections and do all the same time, do a good job with the team I was at. And then after about a year and a half, I had an opportunity to move back to my hometown in San Diego and work in the marketing department for the Padres. And I would say working for the Padres was everything I had hoped, and in some ways, not what I hoped. Just because you reach a certain goal, a milestone, does not ensure your happiness or your well-being, forever. And I had some really awesome moments at the Padres, but I also, went through an ownership change. I went through an environment where the team was not winning a lot, or there was a lot of turnover with that ownership change, and dealing with new leadership and having to reprove yourself over and over and over again. And, it's just because you're working in Major League Baseball does not mean everything is all roses all the time. It's a very stressful environment. It's a demanding environment. You get to the office at 8 or 9 a.m. You stay until 10 o'clock at night. And the thing about baseball, they play 81 home games, so you're doing that for a very long time.
And what were your key roles, your key duties?
When I first got there, I was responsible for the kids club, the Junior Padres program. So I was building the future fan base, so to speak. So I was actually a junior Padre when I was a kid. My dad would get the little package at the beginning of the year. It would come with some goodies. I turned that more into like a membership program where you got rewarded. The kids got rewarded for coming to a certain amount of games. They would get prizes. And that's where I also gained a big appreciation for the business side of sport too. And because that still exists in my life, now the dollars and cents is the engine that really keeps a lot of this going. So, I learned how to turn our kids club program from more of a long-term marketing effort into a, lead generation and sales generation for our ticket packages. And that was how I provided, a lot of value to the team. That's ultimately how I ended up, staying aboard through an ownership change and keeping my job and growing from there. So I learned the number one most important rule is, running major league teams is expensive with player salaries, and anything you can do to help that cause and sign great players with the revenue generation, that's the most important thing.
Okay, so how did you end up at Siena?
I would say that happened quickly. What was more of a process was getting myself into the college game. Um, you know, Baseball was a grueling season, and actually it's so time consuming that when you get to the fall and baseball season's over, you kind of don't know what to do with yourself a little bit. So I started volunteering at night during fall and winter and coaching high school water polo at my high school alma mater, Torrey Pines. That's what really got me back into coaching, was volunteering and doing that. But I would say a few years of high school coaching and then getting introduced to coaches Tim Reed and Doug Peabody at San Diego Shores, who were amazing mentors to me. Everywhere I went, and this will be the, how I segue this. Doug introduced me to everyone, everywhere we went. He's an amazing coach. He taught me everything, just about everything I know about coaching the sport of water polo. But he also helped me build the foundation and network to meet the right people, learn how to carry myself as a professional, to have the confidence in myself as a coach, to turn this into a reality. Because, for the longest time, even volunteering coaching at Shores, that was still did not seem like a real thing that I could do. But one day I just decided I was going to push the chips all in, and I started doing what I did when I was working in AAA for the Braves. I hit the phones, expand the, network. I met Chris Vidal, who's the head coach at Marist, through, water polo and him recruiting, my high school players. Chris was a former assistant and player for, Brian Kelly at Iona. He's an amazing coach. Chris told Brian about me. Brian had an open assistant. I was at Iona. And then, Siena had an opening, and Siena kind of recruited me, for my assistant position at Iona over to Siena. So that's how that came about.
Okay, so followed basically, as you said, the same baseball track. What were some of the things you evaluated about the state of the program when you got there?
I mean, everything, like when I think about making a big change, I'm thinking about, the opportunity to create a legacy. And when there's a bunch of obstacles or things don't seem ideal, that has never really deterred me from doing things. It didn't deter me from, leaving beautiful Southern California and going to Georgia. I'd never been to the South, never in my life. Had no clue what that was going to be like. It didn't deter me then. It didn't deter me from, volunteering or waking up at obscene hours to go coach and then work a full-time job later and then go coach again at night. So like the unidealness, you could say, of a situation I've always kind of run towards that. So, evaluating the state of the program, I knew a few things. Like I knew it's a Division I program. I knew the scholarship funding was healthy enough that I knew we could, with some patience and time, we could compete and recruit the way we needed to recruit. I knew that I loved living in the state of New York, and there must be other like-minded people who would love to, play and go to college in New York. But, the big part that was appealing to me was like the people really expressed that they believed in me, and my athletic director believes in me. And then when I was meeting the players and they interviewed me, I could tell that they had a very strong sense of hunger to do something really special. And they didn't want to be, the program that was, turning over coaches or, not being competitive in the conference. So, I mean, I saw it as, okay, I can get it on the ground floor, have a lot of autonomy, do something the way I think is best. And at the end of the day, I'll either, fail doing it my way, or I'll be successful doing it my way. but I'll get to have a lot of ownership, and that's what's really going to drive, my wellness and happiness on a daily basis.
Okay, so then what initiatives have you implemented since you got there?
The number one has just been instilling the culture and the mindset and beginning that and executing that educational process with our players and really talking about how important it is to build your own legacy and to change your mindset from thinking about what you don't have to thinking about the incredible opportunity that is before you. And for a lot of our players, that they're the most important people. The current players were like, that was the number one thing I was going to focus on, was building my relationships and giving my all to the current players, because they're the ones who are enduring the coaching change. They are the ones who are part of, a major change in thinking and the way of operating, that they deserve that. And the other part was I was going to carry over the skills that I learned in my, past career and also the skills I learned at U of A, playing and being the president there, that I knew would drive success at an organizational level. I knew that, working in baseball, like if you wanted success 6 months from now, you had to do a lot of work today. If you wanted success from a year from now, you had to do a lot of work, today and planting the seeds and getting out and recruiting and maintaining relationships and building new ones. So, I would say we're doing a lot that we need to do now. We're executing a roster expansion program. We're securing more scholarship funding. We have a pathway to hiring an assistant coach. So there's a lot of things moving, even despite the pandemic, that have kept the ball rolling. That has obviously presented a lot of adaptation and adjustments we've had to make along the way. But in the big picture, we are still moving forward. And I think that's the key, just keep moving forward.
So where do you expect the program to go from here?
I mean, I expect us to be competitive year in and year out for winning a MAC championship. I mean, there isn't a reason we can't, other than if it's us ourselves getting in the way of our own. So, I mean, I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't think we could compete at that level. And with the support we have from our department, just both community wise, and spirit wise, and on top of that, with the scholarship funding that we need to be successful, there's no reason we can't. And my expectation is, a lot of times I want to get ahead of myself. Like, I want to say, I want to do this tomorrow. I want to do this, next year. But it's a process. You only recruit so many players each class, and things are going to take, time to get there. But my mindset is always on a daily basis that we're going to operate as if that's happening right now. And I actually truly believe it. And you can surprise yourself a lot of times if you go into every game or every season believe you're going to achieve a high level of success.
All right. Well, we've talked about your college career at Arizona. We've talked about your working career since. And you did refer to this a little bit earlier on in the interview, but if you can get a little more specific, how has your collegiate water polo career impacted your working career?
Well, I would say my water polo career is now my working career, and that the path has not always been straightforward or what I thought it would be. But, one thing I've always done is I've always been willing to, get out of my comfort zone, or, try something that some people might think is crazy, at times. So, looking back on it all, I would say that, like, this journey, although it has probably been unusual, I don't know, like, how many college coaches were a player that was never recruited out of high school or played club in college, or, worked in a completely different sport like baseball before they went. But everything is kind of always been like this zigzag that has eventually narrowed in on what I'm doing now. And everything that I am today is because of those different, unique, and diverse experiences that I've had before, and they've all taught me different things. But one thing that's always been true is you got to go after, the things that you're really passionate about and the things that you really enjoy if you want to, um, live your life in a certain way. Like I never wanted to live my adult life as, where my career was just the paycheck, just to, get through. I always wanted a career that was like, I would do it, if I had to do it for free. And at times I did do it for free. So my biggest message to people is to do that, find what, and that's what I tell our team. Like that's the number one legacy of what I want our program to be about, is that when you graduate from Siena, that, okay, you learned all the universal drivers of success. Like you're ready to stand on your own 2 feet, and whatever your passion, your dream is, like you have the confidence and the skill sets you need to go do that. There's not many of our, people who are going to graduate from college and go be, lifelong professional water polo players or even coaches. That's okay. My philosophy doesn't necessitate them to be that. My philosophy necessitates them to be unafraid of, whatever they are interested in. So I would say, that's been the most important thing, has been able to, pursue what I love. And I'm grateful that I feel that I'm just beginning on that path. I don't feel like I've really, accomplished the big thing or anything. I'm just getting started. There's so many great coaches and teams who are doing amazing things year in and year out. And, that's what I aspire to build, as a program that can be like that, and that everyone at Siena can be proud of. But I'm just, these days just feeling so grateful for the opportunity. And, I'm just so excited to be able to share, my passion and what I have learned to be important life skills with our players and, future players that we're recruiting.
Well, that's excellent. And a lot of times interviewers will ask people that are working through their careers and are older, what would they say to their younger selves? And I like to approach it from the exact different opposite venue. In other words, what would Alex Williams, the University of Arizona college water polo player, say to Alex Williams today?
What would my past self say to my present self?
Exactly.
He would probably tell me to, like, that he was proud that I chose sometimes an unusual path, but never forget that adventurous spirit that it takes, sometimes. I think, like, you want to get older, you want to, kind of stay put or settle a little bit more. And I think that adventurous spirit that you can, anyone might have when they're young, try to hold on to that as much as possible. I mean, I feel like I'm not, like I said, I feel like I'm still getting started. I don't feel that far removed from, my college days. I still feel like I'm most people my age are still work in progress, trying to establish, figure things out. And I would just hope that I've lived my life in a good way and an adventurous way, and that's what I want to continue doing.
All right. Well,
that's an interesting question of way of putting it. I had not thought to examine it from that way.
Yeah, I like to hold one or two of those in my pocket. But the last question: we have high school water polo players and their parents, as well as current college water polo players watching today. You've already given a few nuggets, but what pieces of advice would you give to these people about the impact college water polo can have on your ultimate career?
Well, I mean, as I've talked about with our program, the number one value is, education of universal life skills, and sport and collegiate sports is just a fantastic environment to get that. A lot of people will have, I mean, I had some great professors too, but you spend so much time with your college teammates, your college coach, that there's just a different hands-on level of experience and mentorship that it's really unique to the college experience. So I think the value there is almost, it's special. It's hard to find that in different places. It's hard to get mentors, period, sometimes. So in a college, in the college environment, if a team that is really living up to the mission of what, higher learning institutions should be, then those universal skills really should be at the forefront. So, people who are thinking about getting into this or are full on in the process of recruiting, find a place where the people believe in you, find a place where the coach is not only going to help you become a great water polo player, but, a great young adult. But also, the other things, my relationships and, everything I learned from my teammates is just an important part of that too. I've had teammates from both high school and college. They've gone on to do so many different things and are such great resources for each other. Like, high school kids today, you're gonna have friends that become like a dentist or lawyer. Someone's gonna be coaching your future kids. Everyone's gonna be doing all these different things, and like those relationships you have with those teammates are just gonna be so strong and gonna be such great resources for you in the future. So I think the college athletics experience is phenomenal. There are times I wonder what life would have been like if I had gone, the NCAA or D1 route as a player. But like I talked about before, like the club scene is also a lot of fun, and you can learn a lot from being hands-on and having a little bit more responsibility of the organization's success. But I would say either way you go, there's a lot of value. And, I was so glad that, the senior president who had reached out to me when I was a high school senior, I'm so glad he did. Mm-hmm. I think that there's a place for everyone, and getting involved in college sports is, nothing but upside.
Well, he followed up his college club water polo career at the University of Arizona by getting into professional baseball in the marketing area, and ultimately ending up where he currently is as the head coach of the Siena College Saints women's water polo team. Alex Williams has been my guest today on CWPA Remote. Alex, thanks so much for sharing your thoughts and insights on how the college water polo program can impact people's futures.
Thanks so much for having me, and the opportunity to have this dialogue in a little longer format than some other interviews. Is a lot of fun to dive into some of these, and also your questions help me think of things at a different angle, unique way. So I'm so glad we are able to connect and do this.
Well, I'm sure the viewers have gotten a lot out of it. Until next time on CWPA Remote, this is George Gross Jr. wishing all of our viewers the very best in and out of the pool.